Today I want to show you different ways to use your molds. This is Ancient Finds. We also have Aviary and Wilderness Rose. Now these molds are quite durable and they can withstand high heat temperatures. They can actually be used for baking. And we're going to start with Ancient Finds. This to me is one of the easiest ways to use your molds is by using a hot glue gun. Now you do want to make sure that you have a decent glue gun, a high temperature one, and a popsicle stick. If you need to go in and touch the glue, you don't want to do that with your finger. And I start by getting the glue all in the details and then finishing it off the rest of the mold. And you basically just set it aside to dry. I'm going to use this method and a few of the birds from the aviary as well. This is the bird in flight. I also use the diving bird, the sitting bird, and this is the cherry blossom. And I'm going to use all of the glue, hot glue with that. So now we're going to go to the Wilderness Rose. And this is a modeling material from Redesigned by Prima. I think the last time you guys saw, I used paper clay, which is found in most craft stores. The difference between the two is Redesigned by Prima, you need to get it through a wholesaler. And it does not require any cornstarch inside the molds as a prep, as the paper clay does. So you want to make sure you have a pretty flat surface before you take your mold and release your material. And as you can see, these molds are extremely detailed. They really come out beautiful, whatever method you use. Now, the one other method that's available is epoxy. I personally will not work with epoxy because I do think that it is, not very healthy. If you're going to use it, make sure you have a mask on. But I usually will go with the paper clay, the molding material, or the hot glue. So this has just been sitting for, a little bit. It dries pretty quickly. And here's your mold with the hot glue gun. Now you're not seeing the detail as much, but when we paint it, you will then see all the details in these molds. It does a good job at, grabbing all that you need for visual later on. So here's the bird in flight. Here's the diving bird. So I found this arch window from Michael's back after Christmas, and I got it for probably maybe $5, $8. It was quite cheap. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the entire thing with vintage duck egg. And I have this adhesive material. It's pretty similar to the vinyl that you'd get for your Cricut, and actually it may be for the Cricut. I picked this up at Michael's, and it is extremely sticky, and it feels like material. It's very easy to work with. And I made this arch cardboard, and I'm covering it with this adhesive material. And this is going to be my backing for my arch window. It almost feels like a fabric Band-Aid. That's the only way I can describe if you've never used it. But it is very sticky. So one thing, I did make a mistake. I went and I took off the hangers off the back of this arch window, and then I glued my board to the back of the arch window. I should have waited because I'm going to be painting on the front. So I know I didn't do it in the correct order, but I did it, and I didn't want to rip it back up after I realized what I did. So make your backing and put it aside. So the way that I add my molds is 90% of the time I'm going to use Elmer's wood glue. It always does a great job for me. And now I'm taking my different molds because at the end I want to show you how you really can't tell what material you used in the end result. So I'm just placing my molds, my cherry blossom, my ancient finds in the center, my birds I will be putting around, my wilderness rose, and I'm all putting this on with wood glue. Now, my molds that were made from the clay are not completely dry yet, and that's okay. You can add them to your project, then allow them to dry, then paint is the order in which you can do it. You can let it dry first and then apply them. The reason I don't like to do that is I do believe that they curl and shrink, and I'd rather them do that already glued to my project. And if you get any cracking, which does happen, you can use wood putty or caulk to fill in the cracks. And that works really great. But again, the hot glue is almost flawless, really. The worst thing that can happen with your hot glue is sometimes you get an air bubble. But again, if you're looking for a vintage look like I am, I don't look for perfection. I kind of work with it. So here I placed all my molds in different areas, and I started by painting them all black. Now, I lost a video of me painting them over the back black. I painted them vintage duck egg in a dry brush so that you could still see the black underneath. And I did lose the video, and I apologize for that. But it's quite simple because then I went in with white and did the same exact thing as I did with the blue. So I figured you could see what I did. And here I am dry brushing a little bit of white over the blue and the black and just creating layers of color. And now you can see all the detail in the molds. Whether I used the hot glue or the paper clay, the end result was pretty much the same. In this project, I just wanted layers of color. So now I'm adding some gold gilding wax. You can find that at Chalk It Up Fancy. The molds you can find at chalkitupfancy.com. The gilding wax, chalkitupfancy.com. And any paint products, chalkitupfancy.com. And now I'm going in with Begonia from Wise Owl. And just dusting parts of that with the begonia, kind of sticking with the flowers, just a touch here and there. And now you have this beautiful vintage arch window made from molds. And I hope that you learn different ways that you can create your molds. For more tutorials, go check us out on YouTube or chalkitupfancy.com. Thank you.